is about to shoot unscripted questions. This is Agenda Kenya with Jason Nyantino.
On Agenda Kenya tonight, Korir Sing'oei, international human rights lawyer, Odenda Lumumba, national coordinator, Kenya Land Alliance, Ted Olang, board member, Kenya Land Alliance, and Mwenda Makathimo, executive director, Land Development and Governance Institute. Many thanks for joining us. Welcome to Agenda Kenya, your award-winning talk show. I hope you had a fabulous Christmas and New Year break. Welcome to tonight's discussion. In this program, we focus on land reforms, a very emotive and political subject, and we want to know, the new land laws have what it takes to sort out the long-standing land injustices in this country? We find out tonight. I've got fantastic audience members all the way from different counties from across Kenya. Welcome aboard. Our first question is from Diana Katile. Diana, your question.
My question is, how is land registration going to be made efficient such that the title deed will not be a mere document, but will indeed be a manifestation of actual possession of land?
Thank you, Diana. Lumumba, I want you to take that and you answer that in the light of the new laws that have just been passed.
Yeah, within the new laws and the provisions of the new constitution, the National Land Commission will have oversight and monitoring duty or role over the registration of all titles in the country. It is anticipated and expected that in 10 years from now, all land in Kenya ought to be under register. The ideal situation is that the registration system is going to be streamlined within the provision of the new laws. And therefore, one would expect that it will be more secure to have a registration that is credible, that has a ground truthing to the property on the ground. Other elements that are very, very important about the new registration is that beyond just the private property or the private individual title, there will also be registration of the public land and community land. Therefore, every man of land will be registered. It would also be interesting to realize that for a long time, women have been discriminated in terms of registering land. Joint titling for couples in matrimony or spouses is promoted by the new laws. And therefore, we expect a watertight mechanism. Registration will be developed from the national registry to the lowest level of devolution.
Okay.
Practically possible in the country.
Okay, thanks, Lumumba. Lumumba has talked about the new laws and the powers that are envisaged therein, but enabling regulations, because we know that these laws need regulations for them for us to breathe life into these laws. And I know that last year in July, the Minister for Lands appointed a committee to come up with these laws. So do we have these regulations in place, or we are still waiting for them?
Incidentally, the regulations have not been done, and it is not the sole duty of the Ministry of Lands to do regulations. Every act says how regulations will be done. For instance, the National Land Commission Act provides for the Commission to come up with the regulations. So the regulations that affect the functions of the National Land Commission cannot be done by the Ministry. They have, as a matter of fact, to be done by the National Land Commission. The regulations that require to be done by the County Land Management Board will have to be done by County Land Management Boards. There will be regulations to be done by the Cabinet Secretary for any functions that relate to what the registrar is doing and what the ministry is doing. So those regulations are the ones that the Cabinet Secretary can be the front runner.
Okay.
So the issue is, why is the ministry continuing with the business as usual? These regulations actually mean the real job, how the real job will be done, because the laws will focus on the direction of what should be done.
Are you saying the minister is breaking the law?
What I am saying is that the ministry is trying to to go ahead of the time. Instead of bringing the institutions that are given powers by the Constitution and the legislation, they are going on business as usual, working with the institutional framework and the status quo. How can reform be done with the old mindset, with the old institution? It is putting new wine into old wineskin. So that is overstepping. As much as they are required, the right participation, the right spirit of reform, the framework and involvement of the devolved structures cannot be done in a centralized manner as it is being done now.
Thank you. Korir, what are these laws in the first place? I think we need to understand which laws these are. Could you just give us one or two, then give a snapshot of what you feel about her question?
You know, there are 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that have already come into effect in the land sector. The first one is the Land Act itself, which is the main legislation that captures the principles, relating to land ownership, land management and land administration. The second legislation is the Registration Act, the Land Registration Act, which, like Mwangi says, lays out broadly the mechanisms for registering both public land, community land, as well as private land. Yes. And lastly, or rather second before last, the National Land Commission Act, which establishes this body proposed in Article 67 of the Constitution, the National Land Commission. And then we've got the statute that establishes the Environment and Land Codes, which is designed to be the main dispute resolution mechanism on issues that relate to land. Okay.
Thank you.
So broadly, this statutes, I think, lay the basis and lay the foundation for addressing, I think, some of the most complex issues relating to land, ranging from, from registration all the way to dispute resolution.
Okay, thank you, Korir. Ted, where do you stand in terms of these new laws? Are you happy with the new land regime? And I want you to respond. There was an issue that he raised earlier Lumumba raised earlier about inheritance and women, because land and women has been a sticky issue for a long time.
Thank you. The issues of land, that has been very, very sensitive. But the most people who felt abused and neglected were the women, and now we have the orphans. As far as the speed at which the implementation is taking place is concerned, it is so slow, and the people who are suffering keeps on suffering, and the challenges we used to have are still on, like the judiciary. Their speed at which they were addressing land issues were very pathetic. It could take 10 years. The corruption issues and the antagonism and even legal representation. These were some issues that if the land law, the Land Act, or if the National Commission can be sworn in even today, they will start addressing the issues of land.
So do the new laws then address those issues? Are we optimistic?
They address, when you check through the Chapter 5 of the Constitution from Article 60 to 72, everything is addressed, but people are not aware. And also, they are addressed, but the implementation is antagonizing every section. Yes.
Okay, I think one thing needs to come out clear here, Mwenda, especially about the inheritance, because those are the issues in Mashinani. You know, will someone, under this new land regime, will someone be free to, apportion their piece of land to their sons, to their daughters? Can women own land, Are there cultural constraints still down there? Because we know what goes on in the villages.
Yeah, the legal framework, right from the Constitution, is fantastic. It is recognizing all rights of all persons. It is requiring that there should be no discrimination. The interests of the orphans, the dependents are all being recognized. So as far as statute and as far as the Constitution is concerned and the land policy, the matters of provisions are clear and good. Okay. But the question is implementation. Very well written, remaining on paper. The structures to implement missing. Okay. The goodwill and the commitment missing.
How do we get that goodwill?
You got to bring in the institutions. You got to come with the first main institution, the National Land Commission, then build the county institutions. Okay. Then get the right human resource with the right attitude. You don't continue with the structures that promoted the previous practice and expect them to change without changing the framework.
Thank you, Mwenda. I'll go to the audience now. Want to hear what Kenyans think. I'll start from the gentleman on the third row. Your name, comment or question, please.
Yeah, my name is Johnson Mutiso.
Your name, please?
Johnson Mutiso. My question goes to the panel on the extreme right. You've talked about implementation, but you find that down here at the Mashinani level, the people who are appointed to look into these issues about land, they themselves have conflict of interest, whereby you find some of them have acquired public land or land that is supposed to be held in trust for the common use of the people around there. What measures are being put in place to see that these kind of people do not influence some of these decisions that are made to ensure that this land is brought back to the people who are supposed to use it?
Thank you. He'll respond to that. Accountability. Second last row. Your name, please.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this chance to speak. I've heard you talking about the new policies.
Give us your name, please.
My name is Andrew Master Buga. I've heard you talking about the land new policies. And my question was to start by saying that we know that we are colonized by the British. And at that time, there were the land policies, like the one which they made with the Maasai, that they should own the land for around 99 years. Now my question is that the same which has brought to our constitution?
Thank you. The controversial question of land leases. I'll take third one on my extreme right at the back. Your name, please.
Oh, I'm Ucheng. My question goes to Mr. Odenda. Kindly shed some light as regards what is stalling the coming into effect of the Land Commission in terms of appointment of commissioners and its to operationalize it.
Okay, thank you very much for your questions. Agenda Kenya takes a break now, but we'll be right back to address all of them. Stay with us. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight we are focusing on land reforms, and we are finding out if the new land laws have what it takes to confront the country's long-standing land injustices. Mr. Mwenda, there was a question from the audience about conflict of interest, especially with land officials down at the county level.
Yes, one thing I want to do is agree that questions of conflict of interest and competing interests and people who are very deep vested interest are being an obstruction to realization of the real benefits of land reform or the anticipated benefits. Now, how do you control this? The Constitution is very empowering. It requires participation, public participation in policy making and in implementation of all decisions and all matters of governance. Land is not an exception. So how do you participate in these matters of land governance? first, in these coming elections, as you choose the MP, the county rep, know that those county reps will be the ones to vet the people to sit on county land management boards. Those MPs are the ones to vet the people who will be cabinet secretaries. They are the ones to vet the people who will be in the commissions. So if you choose people who have a bad record, they will not vet. If you choose people who have a bad record at the county level, who have been grabbers, they will not vet. They will bring in grabbers. So you must, first of all, start with good elections. Then second, how do you take action during that process of vetting or participating? If you have an issue of integrity, you have to raise it. You have a right to take action individually in court to stop on account of integrity. So bring that forth and use the justice system. The other bit is that you must be involved and don't wait to be called. Seek to be involved in the process, in generation of the content, and in the vetting through the board, and also go for those posts. Okay. That is the way.
Thank you.
Take up that discussion further.
Yes, quickly.
With your permission. I think the statute also is very clear in terms of facilitating public participation. One, the statute establishes that public land is now vested not in the president, but in the Independent National Land Commission. Second, it requires the National Land Commission before allocating public land.
So can I get it clearly there, correct? So the president now will not have powers to dish out land?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
In relation to public land.
Proceed.
Secondly, the National Land Commission, before making any allocation of public land, is required to issue notices to the public about its intention to divest land, from the public to the private or to the community tenure system. And that provides space for communities, for individuals, for affected parties to be able to participate and engage in the process and question it through the public process, but also question it in
what
court.
If these notices are not given?
This is a requirement, of the law, yes. It's a requirement of the law.
So the government must.
And they should be published not just at the national level, but also at the county level, which then means that citizens, and I'm coming back to what Mwenda was saying, citizens must become totally active in terms of ensuring that their ears are open, their eyes are open in relation to the manner in which the Land Commission operates.
Okay, thank you. Ted, there was a question on 99-year leases. Where does that sit in the new land regime?
Thank you again. Actually, to say the truth, it is there.
The lease, the
lease,
99 years
even
is still
for
there.
the foreigners who want to venture into business in Kenya and acquire land for erection of their machines, or for any purpose of use of land, the 99 years is still on.
For foreigners or even for Kenyans?
I don't know. Okay, Kenyans have the classes where they can acquire land, either through community, individual or private. But the foreigners, the foreigners who are not citizens, if they want to do something in Kenya, they can also acquire land. But the lease goes up to 99 years, so it is still there. Now, if your area is industrial area, and an area where foreigners will come to do their business, and they want to use your land, and you are not aware of how long it's going to hold the land, you should just come out and ask questions regarding everything about erection of that project. Okay. Yes, because just to go on a little, the Maasai people, when they were asking about the European who came and they were still on the land. They were Indi, they are still on their land. 99 years has elapsed. Yeah? They are coming maybe when it is too late, or when people who are in power, or people who are supposed to make changes are not effective enough, or they have been influenced, or they have been corrupted. So it is better to have your ears out and to have your eyes looking on anything that's happening around you.
More public participation.
Yeah, you must participate anything happening in your area.
Thank you. Lumumba wanted to take this. There was a question on the National Land Commission from Ocheng. So just pick it up and tell us, bring us up to speed. Where is it so far? What has been done?
The National Land Commission should have been in place 7 days from the 12th of August, when the Parliament forwarded the nominees to the President. Incidentally, there were 3 cases to the High Court contesting the manner in which they were recruited. The 3 cases were combined and dealt by the High Court judge and were all dismissed as of October 12th. That means essentially all those cases were gone. There was an intention to appeal against that decision, which went to before Justice Martha Koome. And in the agreement between the judge and those who are trying to appeal, it was agreed that there was no injunction that was required against gazettement, which was the finalization of the appointment of the commissioners. Therefore, the president has had a free hand since December 4th to appoint the commissioner through gazettement. So why is it stalling? I think one of the reasons why it is stalling is that those with vested interests, those who stand to lose when the commission comes into place, are basically holding the hand of the president to execute a constitutional mandate. So the executive is, by omission, failing to implement the constitution in that regard.
So what you're saying, Lumumba, is that the president is very late.
We are saying that the president has failed to take his mandate, which is basically to finalize the process by having the gazettement, which will give the Chief Justice authority to swear in the commissioners. Okay. However, we must equally say that what is stalling this whole process is the failure for us to be vigilant, to demand as the Kenyan public.
That is what
we need the National Land Commission like yesterday, not even today. Yesterday it should have been there.
Okay.
So we must. There's no law.
You need to finish.
Yeah, I'm just finishing by saying there's nothing in law to forbid us to demand this to be done immediately.
Okay.
So I think it is the people's demand, by way of participating in this matter, that will break what we call the last straw of the horse or the camel that is the president.
Thank you, Lumumba. I wanted to ask Mwenda. So how do we proceed? I mean, the president has refused to act, apparently. Because nothing stops him from acting. I know he watches this program, so I know he's taking notes. So how do we proceed? Do we just wait for the president to act?
No, we will not just wait for the president to act. Because every public officer, the president is also a public officer, is to be held to account, whether in office or after. The second is, it's not just the president alone. There are other parties who work with the president. If it is the head of public service and the secretary to the cabinet who work with the president, you seek to continue. And when matters to account are required, the citizens will require that he accounts for his actions of omission. And the citizens also can go to court and seek specific action. But even before court, know that there are other times that matters have been resolved without going to court, when Parliament has decided not to transact business, and every other leader. What surprises is that everybody in Parliament and the rest are pretending that nothing is happening. Okay. So citizens need to take note of all those.
The citizens.
Citizens need to take note of all those who are cooperating.
Yes.
Those who are seeking leadership and are cooperating.
So let's hear the citizens first.
Information before they just do that.
Very quickly.
The information that as of yesterday, we are in court. We have a court petition number 6 in the Constitution and Human Rights Division of the High Court, calling on the president to gazette and finalize the appointment of the commissioner as of yesterday. Okay. It's a matter of urgency.
Let's get to hear the citizens now. What about National Land Commission especially? What do you have to tell the president? Because he's watching the program. You have a chance now to address His Excellency. This is a very serious chance. Gentleman on my extreme left, third row. Your name, please?
My name is Humphrey Ademba. But there's something I wanted to know, because now it seems that you're confusing the public. As usual, we've seen our president forming so many commissions, especially recently from the Ndung'u Commission on land issue. So the public does not understand what the Ndung'u report is all about. So can you tell us, please, Mr. Lumumba, because you seem to be understanding these things. Are you talking about reforms based on the Constitution, or are you talking about the reforms based on Ndung'u report?
Thank you, Humphrey. He will respond. Any other? The ladies are not contributing. I'm looking for we need to be gender balanced. Anyway, the gentleman right at the back. Your name, please?
My name is Patrick Njama, and my question goes to Mr. Mwenda. He talked about the issue of lack of goodwill among the leadership in implementing these laws, and we have seen that with the National Land Commission, the lack of goodwill from the president. Shouldn't these laws be self-regulating, where they are not dependent on the goodwill of a certain individual, but it should be institutionalized so that these things will run even if the goodwill from the leadership is not
Okay, thank you. I'll spread the debate to my right, because I know all of us are competent enough to respond to those issues that have been raised. And I want to start with Korir. Even if the National Land Commission is yet to be gazetted, I think we need to go deeper as we respond to these questions. Kenyans need to know what powers and functions does this commission actually have? What will it do? Is it the silver bullet, the magic bullet that we've been waiting for?
I think that's a very important question. But let me just step back, for a second to say further that the lack of an institution such as the National Land Commission is something that is beneficial to certain interests. There are people who are benefiting from these institutional lacuna during this transition, so that public land is still being allocated in the manner that is totally in contravention of the new constitution. Land is still being dished out, etc., etc. And yet, the institution that is supposed to deal with public land, since we adopted the constitution, is actually the National Land Commission. Now, the National Land Commission has several functions. The most important function is the fact that all public land in Kenya is vested in that body. Mm-hmm. So this body is now the steward, the trustee of all public land. Secondly, this body is also mandated to develop policy, that relates to land, etc., etc. And then it's also charged with addressing historical land injustices. Now, the lack of this body certainly means that a lot of these issues remain in limbo, because there is no institution that is now constitutionally empowered to take these issues forward. And like I said, this is beneficial to those vested interests which Adenda and Mwenda have talked about.
That's why the gazettement is not coming.
That is why it is delaying, contrary to the law.
Okay, something I wanted to respond, Ted. When I was looking at the Constitution, especially in the powers and functions of the National Land Commission, it actually says that it will just recommend appropriate redress. I have a problem with the recommend. You can recommend something, then someone says that was just a recommendation. What chances are there that the recommendation from the commission will just be kept somewhere and to just gather dust?
Okay, in that case, we formulated a policy, national land policy, and we have principles guiding it. Now, it cannot be in a vacuum. It cannot pass from a gap to land somewhere. We must use the national commissioners to do the implementation. On doing the implementation, they do research. On doing recommendations, they also advise. Their recommendation is also based on fact-finding on the ground. they advise the government, the national government, they advise the county government, and they advise all the stakeholders.
So you're convinced,
They are experts. They will be, the ones that we have, the 9, have been vetted.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are at the county, I don't know if they are already been.
They will
be vetted.
Yes.
If you are a land grabber, you will not be recommended.
Okay.
We expect transparency and good governance to put these people on table, so that what they recommend, what they advise, what they bring on board should be taken seriously.
Thank you. Time for a break now, and if you're watching us from home, this is a good time to be part of this discussion by answering this question. Do you think the ongoing political campaigns are addressing the land question sufficiently? Do you think the ongoing political campaigns are addressing the land question sufficiently? Text your answer to the number on your screen, give us your name and location, and feel free to give in a short comment or a brief comment about what you think. You can also follow us on Twitter using hashtag Agenda Kenya. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight we are focusing on land reforms, and we're finding out if the new land laws have what it takes to bring greater transparency in the country's land management system. Mwenda, there was a question for you about the laws. Why can they be independent? Why are we depending on other institutions to breathe life into these laws?
Well, at the initial stage, it was expected that public officers will exercise responsibility as expected in their offices. But in practice, we are appreciating mischief is setting in. So the same way the other laws say some things will happen whether the president does it or not, I think an amendment would be very, very useful, and we shall focus on an amendment to the National Land Commission Act to say that if the president delays beyond 7 days, then it happens automatically, whether or not he has gazetted. It was also a way of involving the executive.
Do you think the kind of MPs we have will pass that?
However, history gives us the opportunity at this time to choose new leadership. You know, we need not lose hope. The citizens, in a month's time, in almost 1.5 months' time, have a chance to elect and bring to office new leaders who will be brought on basis of the commitment they have given. And on that basis, this can be prioritized. Other than that, I want to also say the matter of having strong institutions is very important. Citizens have to be alert to have strong institutions like this National Land Commission as a function of computerization of the land records. If they are computerized, there will be no double titling, there will be efficient service delivery. So it benefits citizens directly. Matters of planning, there is the way the towns and the countryside is haphazardly being developed. These matters of planning are vested on the National Land Commission. The matters of historical injustices that everyone is worried about, and the issues of peace during and after elections, these are matters that the Commission has powers, constitutional powers to resolve. So anyone avoiding or omitting to bring this institution is endangering the country at this critical point.
Thank you, Mwenda. I'll take my next question from Irene Otto. Irene Otto is a student.
Okay, my question is there any act or statute or provision that takes care of IDPs and squatters? And if there isn't, what is the government doing about it?
IDPs and squatters. Lumumba, you're going to take that.
There's, in the national land policy, the issue of IDP squatters is a special intervention matter. policy directs that the government should take the earliest opportunity to sort out that kind of matter. Secondly, if you read the provisions of the Constitution under the land policy principles, there's a direction to redress issues of the internal displacement. Currently, there's a statute which was passed during the December season, specifically addressing the internally displaced persons. So there's now a law clearly addressing the issues of IDPs. Beyond that, there's international protocol within the Great Lake region that we can reference to. But we could also go to the Convention about Refugees. It has elements that address that. All those international conventions, protocols, treaties now do apply to Kenya, as long as Kenya has already appended its signature, which I can confirm it has done.
Okay.
In addition,
very quickly before I go to...
In addition, the Land Act gives the function of a settlement of all persons.
Mm-hmm.
That duty is given to the National Land Commission. So whether IDP, whether landless, whether refugees,
the Commission has powers.
The Commission has powers, and there is even a special fund created under the Commission to settle all these people. So in its absence, then people suffer.
All right. Korir, last time you were here, you told me you're running for political office.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still running?
I am running.
So you belong to a political party?
Yes, I do.
Which one?
I belong to the Jubilee Coalition.
The Jubilee Coalition.
Yes.
So I want you to tell us now, in the manifesto or in the blueprint of the Jubilee Coalition, what are you going to do about land if you win this election? Because we have a problem where politicians are out there campaigning, they are not addressing these issues.
Indeed, I think that's a very important question. I want to say first that the manifesto of the Jubilee Coalition is going to be launched. And so at this point in time, I'm not really authorized to discuss it. But broadly, the questions of land are so fundamental to the survival and the productivity of our people. And what the Jubilee Coalition is focused on is exactly empowering the institutions established by the by the Constitution, ensuring the functionality and the efficiency of the National Land Commission.
That is fine, Korir. I want to take you back.
Yes.
Which seat are you running? I'm
running for
here.
Member of Parliament for Kwanza constituency in Trans Nzoia County.
That Kwanza has land issues. What will you do as an individual if you are elected?
Absolutely. I think the fundamental question in Kwanza has to do with the number of squatters in the first instance. There's so many squatters who are constantly harangued and harassed, because of evictions. And one of the major things I'm talking about is exactly what Mwenda talked about, resettlement of squatters, ensuring that the Land Commission has the resources to establish that fund. That resettlement fund is the fundamental thing that I would like to do. So I'd like to wipe out the problem of squatters in Kwanza and ensure that those people have dignity, have rights, and have property that is respected by the law, by the Constitution.
Thank you.
And they will never suffer eviction ever again.
Very quickly, in terms of political campaigns that are going out there, do you think this land question is being addressed? I've given it for 10 seconds. I'm running out of time.
It is being addressed by the parties, but in different levels and different styles. Like in Kenya, where I am, and I'm going to run for women in rep in Homa Bay County, we are doing it inclusively. Whether you are a squatter, IDP, a widower, an orphan, your land is being snatched from you. Like now we are having new development in the counties and people are really rushing there to buy land. It is being addressed. Thank you.
Okay, Lumumba, you are itching to say something.
Yeah, I was itching to say something because my friend and longtime colleague is standing with the Jubilee. I would basically advise Jubilee, before even we read their manifesto, that the name Jubilee has a connection with the 50th year biblically, but also the Kenyan independence. This year, we are reaching 50 years. The honorable thing you can do on the Jubilee is to return all lands that you have grabbed in the past. if you don't have it...
Are you addressing a specific individual
Yeah, no,
or generally?
I'm addressing it to all the Jubilee Convention Coalition members.
How do you know that
My take is that whether you have a manifesto or not, Jubilee will always be from a point of view that you return all the properties that you acquired irregularly or illegally. But I want to do this.
No, I need to give him right of reply.
I want to say one thing.
I need to finish the show, but I must give him right of reply. Then we finish the show. Right of reply, Korir, please.
I think the fundamental principle of Jubilee is what Lumumba has articulated. The reality, obviously, though, is that the question of land restitution, the question of land redistribution, requires an institutional mechanism. If it's done in a haphazard manner, if it's done in a random manner, it's bound to create lawlessness and create disincentives around economic development. So this entire thing, in terms of the Jubilee Coalition, has to do with institutional building, so that the people can be beneficiaries of any land that will be returned or restituted.
Mwenda?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Very quickly, you have 10 seconds.
I don't belong to either political party or Jubilee or any other, but as a professional and an expert in land matters, I see deficiency in the campaigns, because one party is saying return, the other party is saying you also took, the other party is saying you don't come with clean hands. What we want to see is land management strategies coming out clearly. How will you involve people? How will you resettle? The how, the where, the what. We do not want sensational, where you say so-and-so took, you also took, not blame game. Let us also not see politicians promising what they can't deliver. They are promising land, yet they know there is no land. That is not...
Thank you very much.
Also, they must, in their utterances, respect also security of tenure, not to incite Kenyans against Kenyans. I'm seeing it across board. It has to end.
Thank you very much, and that's where the curtains fall for Agenda Kenya this week. I thank my panel and my studio audience for that wonderful discussion, and of course to all of you at home for watching. You can still be part of this conversation by responding to this question. Do you think the ongoing political campaigns are addressing the land question sufficiently? You know the drill. Text your answer to the number on your screen. Give us your name and where you're watching us from. You can also find us on our Twitter and Facebook pages. And until next week, bye-bye.